Great to see such a packed room. Right, so I'm just going to give just a short overview about my company KISPE that I work for. So quick overview, and then I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail into one of our biggest projects, which has been the development of the Spaceport Cornwall, and give you a little bit of a flavour of what that's entailed. Okay, so KISPE. We were formed in 2016. It's a privately owned project engineering company where we have a passion for supporting businesses in their space operations and making space accessible for people. So we have a wide range of experience within the company, a range of skills and experience. Many of us have been in the space industry for quite a long time, coming from a range of different space companies. And our key message that we have, our tagline, is turning ideas into reality. So that's what we're trying to do. So we're a team with decades of first-hand experience between us, with knowledge across the whole space industry, from providing training and development opportunities, systems design, concept design, system engineering, manufacturing, integration and test experience, operations, and also applications and services. So we can support people with aspirations in space across these areas and domains, and we can help them. And we've got staff working from a range of different companies, from the likes of Satellite Technology, Kinetic, Airbus, etc. So each of those little areas, just a little bit more detail. So training and development, we are partnered with a company in the US called TSTI, who have an extensive training package. So we partner with them so we can deliver their training packages across the UK and anywhere else. And we often team up to deliver training programs. They are big in terms of space, training, and written some of the key textbooks that we all use, like for space mission analysis design, for example. So, but we also have our own training that we're developing and delivering, and we also have developed with TSTI something called EssentialSat, which is a 3U model CubeSat thing which we use for training. It's 3D printed based on Arduinos, and is a really fantastic tool for training people about how satellites work, but also can be used in development and also for, There we go. It's always good to keep us on our toes, isn't it? So yes, we're passionate about our training and development. So if you need help with training or development, we can certainly support. We're able to do mission concept studies, and there's a few examples here on the screen of things that we have done in the past, and we can do all sorts of concept studies from a wide range of topics of interest. Project support, this is one of our biggest areas. We do a lot of work in this area. We support companies in delivery, either through being a customer friend, we're working with one company. They're developing their satellites, they don't have space experience, so we're working with them to be that intermediary between them and their spacecraft manufacturer, so we can give them the expertise in knowing what they're doing. We're working with another company. They're developing their space capability in the UK. They haven't done it before in the UK, and their staff are lacking experience in some areas like system engineering or project management, and so we go in and we don't just consult and give them advice, we actually embed ourselves in the team and actually work with them so that they can learn and develop how to do things and get their mission through. So, and staff members, we've got a member of the team fairly permanently based with one of our partners at the moment, helping them deliver a mission in the testing phase as an example. And we do that for system engineering, we can do that for integration and test support, software, project management and procurement. So we've done those kinds of activities. Satellite design and manufacture. We're actually building our first satellite, we're very excited, and it's called KERNOSat. The clue is in the title, it's for Cornwall. So as I'm going to talk later, we're very heavily involved with Cornwall, with the Spaceport, and it came about because the Cornish people, when the Spaceport was first mentioned, were like, well, what's space got to do with me? Why are we investing all this money in space? You know, it doesn't help me in my daily life. So as part of that, there's a big education programme going in Cornwall to educate and to make them realise the value of space, and part of that is KIRNOSAT programme. And KIRNOSAT 1 is an environmental mission with 2 roles, basically to do a marine environmental monitoring, but also to provide an education base. So we're doing an IoT mission, Internet of Things. We're going to have buoys with sensors, and we're going to get the schools building those sensors and those buoys, and work with local industries and partners to develop marine sensing, both for environmental and for commercial purposes. So that's in development. It's well, we're getting the units in, and that will be launched sometime in 2023, hopefully on the second launch out of Cornwall. We're also developing our own microsatellite platform internally when we get time from all the other stuff, and it's going to be an open source satellite design, and this is building on our passion for making space accessible. So that's another activity we're doing. So I'm now going to come on and talk about Cornwall. It's just taken a lot of our company's time, as you can imagine. It's been a big activity and very exciting activity. So John Paffett, our MD, our owner, who founded the company, he has been working with for Virgin Orbit for some time, a couple of years before the programme started, because they were interested in how they could bring Virgin Orbit to the UK. They're interested in launching from the UK, and John supported them in finding ways of getting funding and getting the programme moving. And then 14 months ago, Spaceport Cornwall became a real activity that we were going to develop the Cornwall. And working with Cornwall Council, Spaceport Cornwall, we are supporting them in building the spaceport. So the idea was to build the spaceport on an existing licensed operational airport down in Newquay. So, and this is where our tagline of building, turning ideas into reality came about. So we're turning the existing Newquay airport into the reality of a spaceport. So the ideas, they started sketching out the design in typical engineering fashion on the back of a napkin, trying to work out what the spaceport would look like. And that, I was talking to a colleague just this morning about this. What was his key challenge in this project? And one of the key challenges was we had requirements from VO of what they needed, but we needed to build a spaceport that would be useful for the whole space community down in Cornwall and the wider UK. But we had none of their requirements. So our experience in the space industry was really required to not just have the VO requirements, but also what we would need as a country for a spaceport down in Cornwall. So that was one of the trickier aspects of coming up with this. Okay, that's different. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, those slides were different, I was confused. So we're responsible for the design and implementation of the infrastructure required to support those launch operations in the UK. So we started off with an RF, there was an old RAF base on the spaceport. So the first activities we had to do was obviously to clear the old building away and make space for the new space facilities. And there are 2 space facilities. There's the Space Systems Integration Facility, the SIF, and the Space Systems Operational Facility. So we're working towards those on the old Newquay site. So, and this was the visualisation and the designs that were come forward. And of course, in true UK Council and UKSA funding, we had to do this on a shoestring budget compared to what you would think a spaceport would cost. So as always, there were so many challenges. And the other key challenge that we had in starting this project was that this started during COVID pandemic. So that also was a big challenge in terms of getting the resources available down there, and also all the supply chain issues that we're all aware of that were occurring during that period. So this was the initial design. So this was the development, so the building up. So we had to consider, when building the site, obviously had to clear it, we had to put in extra support for the foundations, We needed all the plant, so the electricity, all the comms, all the communication, everything had to be shipped in whilst working on a working airport. So that had pros and cons. There was at least facilities, there's roads and all the rest of it, because it's an airport, but it was a working airport, so we had to work our way around that as well. So, so that created some issues. So, and the other thing to bear in mind was the local planning regulations as well. We had to consider all the local planning bylaws and all the other planning issues when putting together a facility of this type. So the Space Systems Integration Facility includes an ISO Class 8 clean room for payload processing and the payload fairing encapsulation. And this replicates the functionality that Virgin Orbit has in their US facility, but actually it's a nice brand new building, which I don't think they've got in the US. So, so it has obviously it has all the plant to make it run. It has the gowning rooms, obviously for getting changed, ready to go in the clean room. It's got the clean room area where the payloads will come in. They're prepared, etc., ready for launch and ready to be encapsulated. And then there's the hangar where it can go out and get encapsulated into the launch vehicle, and that's the big part of the building on the right. Also, in addition to this, we've also commissioned a mobile telemetry and tracking ground station and used the support for that first launch, so we've got that capability there as well for the first launch. In addition to the integration facilities, the operations facility, this is still in build, so it's actually built out of porta cabins. I'll refer you back to the earlier comment on budget. So it's stacked porta cabins. They're currently on site. They're well in development. They're going through the joining process at the moment and getting watertight, and then the fit out of that will proceed, and that will be ready by the end of February. It will include workspace, so desk spaces, offices, meeting rooms, laboratories, and a multi-user clean room, and is available for people, for companies to rent space, whether it's at a desk level or a bigger space. And I believe there is still availability down in that facility, though obviously it will be filling up. And the idea is to create not just a spaceport where we launch satellites from, but actually a hub of space activity down in Cornwall. So where are we at now? Well, you probably all know this anyway, but the integration facility is completed, it's up and running, it's functional. It was officially handed over at the end of September. Payloads, satellite payloads have arrived, and I know there's someone in the room, her satellite is there. So satellites have been integrated and they're in the payload encapsulation area. Cosmic Girl, which is the aircraft that delivers the rocket, arrived in Cornwall on the 11th of October. Closely followed by, on the 15th, the arrival of Launcher 1, which is the rocket that goes under the wing. That was delivered in a big Royal Aircraft airplane, C360, I think, something like that, a really big one. And that was delivered at night, and there's some nice pictures here, courtesy of Virgin Orbit. So, so the rocket has arrived. Oh, what's my next slide? Yeah, so, oh, sorry, I've completely messed that up. Right, so where are we at now? The licence was granted, the first spaceport licence in the UK was granted on the 18th of November. This was one of the biggest activities, actually, certainly in the recent few months, was getting the licence. It's the first time we have had a spaceport licence in the UK. The CAA were new to it, Spaceport were new to it, Virgin obviously were new to it from the UK side, the UK Space Agency, and this was a big, massive activity, under also a time pressure because we want the launch to happen this year. So a huge activity which has been successfully achieved, and we supported heavily on that, on getting that done, providing the support to the CAA, being there every day, making sure they got the information they needed, and the work was done. And now we're on the final preparations for launch. From the spaceport perspective, that is still a huge amount of work. We have, which is nearly completed, in terms of facility. There is a big no-fly zone associated with launching the rocket, and there are businesses within that no-fly zone. So we've had to build temporary office space and accommodation for all those people for while those launch occur, which is porta cabins, but it's not just porta cabins, it's electricity, it's connectivity, it's water, it's catering. The bus depot is on Newquay Airport, that's had to move. We've had to provide them with a kitchen. So there's been lots of activities. And then there's the border, the gated area around for the security. That's a big aspect of getting a spaceport licence. Is that not just the activity of launching the craft, but is the site safe? So a lot of work on security and fencing going round. And then finally it's going to be a big event. So it's all the VIP preparations, the marquees, and making sure all that is all ready, whilst dealing with Cornish weather. I shall leave it at that. So it's not been pleasant recently. So that's it. So we're very excited. We are getting very close to launch. It should hopefully be before Christmas. Just waiting for a successful wet dress rehearsal by Virgin Orbit, which will be after Thanksgiving. So there we go. So yeah. Okay, that's me.